Well, good morning, everybody. This is Dear Mama Sal on a beautiful Tuesday morning. It is 3 degrees here in British Columbia, which would make it about 38, I think, in American. So it's chilly, but it's not that bad at all. And you're probably wondering, where's your coat, Sal? Where's your coat? Well, it's at work. I managed to leave work yesterday laughing, of course, being me. I was laughing about something and I clean forgot my coat, so I'll pick it up when I get there. So I'm hoping that my car warms up pretty soon. I mean, I could have worn my thick coat, yeah, my -10 coat, but why would I do that? It's not that cold, it's just 38. It's not really cold. So, it's such a pretty day. And I'm hoping that you all had fun with the makeup stuff that we did this weekend. It's been a long time since I've done anything to do with makeup because of the backlash that I had the previous time I was doing makeup. And I don't know, and for those of you who are fairly new to the channel, you have to understand that I suffered about a month's worth of haters because I used the wrong brush on something. And it just was like, really? If that's what doing makeup's going to be about, then I really don't want to do it. But I really did enjoy it. And it sounds like some of you enjoyed it as well, and hopefully some of you learnt some stuff, which was really the whole point of it, on the principle that if they could teach me, then anybody could learn how to do it. That's what was my thinking. And so now I'm just sort of working on, I wonder what the next step should be. Maybe I could get some input from you guys. If we did another broadcast like that, what would you like it on? But I certainly learned something from doing this, that it was just like, it was really funny to see so many different people all putting their makeup on at the same time, differently. And I'm pretty sure that when we do our vacation trip at the end of April, that we're going to see a lot of that going on. So that's going to be fun. So let me know if you would like more makeup stuff, and if so, what would you like it on? And I say that because it really is interesting to do every now and then. And you know, it's funny because up until the time I started Dear Mama Sal, my interest in makeup had probably dwindled to zero. With the exception of eye makeup. I still was using eye makeup, but I definitely wasn't using foundations anymore, or powders, or anything else. I had long since given those up. And there's part of me, of course, that wonders whether the reason my skin, and thank you for those that mentioned the fact that I do have very good skin, I often wonder whether the reason for that is because I did give up using all those products a long time ago. Who knows? We'll find out. My face starts breaking out soon, you will know this was a bad call, right? It's getting really pretty to start driving. I believe it's Spring Forward this weekend. So what I'm beginning to notice, there are a lot of trees now here in southern British Columbia that are out in bloom already. We're talking sort of cherry and apple type trees. I just, there's nothing quite like cherry blossom, is there? It's just so pretty. That pink is so pretty. So I'm very encouraged as I drive. Now, the fact that we're about to spring forward does not mean that there is no chance of the white fluffy stuff anymore. because you and I both know it's just when you think that you've got it behind you, and just when you've put away the salt and the shovels and everything else, that you find out that God has one heck of a sense of humor and drops the white fluffy stuff on you when you least expect it. If you remember, we had snow in November, which was really early for British Columbia, and that was it. We had 2 inches in November one night. I think we had it for a couple of days. Can anybody remember? I think it was a couple of days. And it was just like a couple of inches and then nothing else. And the weather we've got now is really beautiful. It's a bit like the weather we had for the Olympics when we hosted the Olympics, when we were busy manufacturing and trucking in snow every night for the snow hills, especially the ones close to Vancouver. It was it was quite a business, and it always made me laugh because the camera, had to be at a certain angle on the ski run. The ski jump thing. Yeah, the actual jump, the ski jump. The camera had to be at a certain angle, and I remember one day a cameraman decided to pan back from the angle that he had. He or she, I don't know whether it was male or female. And what it showed was either side of that ski hill, that ski run, jump. I'll get the words right in a minute. It's early in the morning. Anyway, either side of this ski jump, it was green grass. And then you saw a picture of the spectators. This camera person obviously decided to have a sense of humor. Because there was a picture of the spectators, and the spectators were sunbathing. Some of the guys had their shirts off, taking in the sun. I guess in a way it was great advertising for British Columbia, but don't tell people we have nice weather, because everybody thinks we just have rain. And we sort of like it like that. We like people to visit when it's raining. I'm busy driving in with blue skies and snow-capped mountains around me. Not too much snow on them, actually, for this time of year. But it does look pretty. And they're not the Rockies, they're the coastal mountains. But they are really pretty. Very fortunate. I can always remember when I first came here to Vancouver. I saw pictures of it from overhead pictures, and quite honestly didn't really believe them. I don't know why. I didn't really believe how good the air quality was, although it's getting worse. The air quality was, at the time that I arrived, was almost perfect. It was wonderful. I must admit that you do see a bit of smog now, but then the town has grown quite a bit since I've been here. And no, I did not add to it. I can see some of you going, yeah, so. No, I didn't add to it. But it has grown quite a bit. And so in the summer we do see not a whole lot, but some of that I like to call the California pea soup. Okay. This is really going to be one of those challenging mornings, I can tell. I think that one of the greatest challenges when you live in a climate such as ours is to remember how great the climate is. And I think we get sometimes sucked into the rainy days and go, oh, it's so depressing. I actually don't find the rain depressing anymore. I did when I first came here, but I was used to sort of African sun. But I must admit that I do not find the rain makes me depressed anymore. Every time I see rain, I keep going, you don't have to shovel it, Sal. It just goes down the drain without being asked. So to me, that's wonderful, and the reason that we have such beautiful areas because of the rain that we get. So I'm very, very grateful. I was wondering today, if any of you ever have a moment where you think that God is testing you, whatever you perceive God to be. Because some things happened to me yesterday where somebody that I know is in trouble. And that's a real catch-22 for me. Because I reckon by the time anybody writes to tell you that, they're probably in more trouble than they care to talk about. And also, that they know there is a chance that nobody's going to help them. Must be terrifying. And so, but I didn't for 1 minute sort of think that this was as easy as it looked, because the memory that flooded back to me was what happened to me the last time I tried to help somebody. And so it was very difficult for me. But you know, I sometimes wonder what is the difference between being a soft touch, as I think some people call it, and from being somebody who doesn't help. I don't know if it makes any sense to you, but I have great difficulty refusing somebody who genuinely needs help. I know some people find it really easy, and I don't. So, the reason I queried whether sometimes, you know, is it true that God tests you, is because of my previous experience. And they do say that life will continue to bring the same situations back to you until you learn the lesson. And you understand, they're going, uh-oh. Have I learned the lesson? And it's easy to say yes. You know, yes, I've learned the lesson, therefore, end of story. But you know something? I can't do that. And I think the reason I can't do that is because many, many, many years ago, I was probably in my early 20s, I heard a speech. I guess I'd call it a speech or a story. It was on cassettes in those days, but I heard a story, and it was called The Fourth Wise Man. And you know, we all know about the three wise men in the Christian religion, but it was about the fourth one. And it was an incredible story about, there were actually four of them that were decided to go to Bethlehem, not three. Three of them met up at the place and all went off on their camels together, but the fourth one was running a bit late. And the reason that he was running a bit late was he was busy helping somebody, and he couldn't tear himself away at the right time. So by the time he got to the meeting place, they'd left already. So he jumped on his camel and he went in the direction that he thought they'd gone to try and catch up. Well, the whole of this story is about him trying to catch up with the three wise men. And you cannot believe the series of disasters that hit this guy. Every time he turned around, something else would hold him back. Something else would, he'd stop at an oasis for water, and then there'd be somebody there that needed his help, so he'd stop and help. And then he'd go to the next place, and there'd be somebody who was being unfairly treated, so he'd stop and defend. And then there'd be, it went on and on. And I must admit that as you listen to this story, your eyes were rolling, because you're going, this poor guy. This poor guy, every time he tries to move forward, he's being slowed down. And the story went on to the fact that he eventually arrived in Jerusalem, but of course you and I both know that he arrived too late, and that Christ had already been crucified by the time he got there. And in his anguish, he dropped to his knees and screamed at God in anger. And why would God do this to him? All he wanted to do was to meet his son. And the story impacted me deeply because of what the answer was. And the answer was, when you were late to meet the original three wise men, I was the one that you helped, and that's why you were late. And when you were at the oasis, trying to fill up with water and provisions, I was the one that grabbed your cloak so that you couldn't continue, and I was the one that desperately needed your help. And it went through the whole story, and every time there'd been a hiccup, it turned out that it was God. And the whole thing had been about the fact he needed him in a different place at a different time. And that the three wise men were meant to go and do their gifts to God, or gifts to the baby Jesus, but he was never meant to do that. You see, he was meant to help people along the way. And I don't know why that had such an impact on me, but it did. And to this day, I remember that story. And to this day, I have great difficulty when people call out for help. And I don't know what you ask yourself, and I know enough of you have very big hearts. But I always ask myself, what if it's God sent? What if it's nothing to do with the reason you think? What if it's God sent? And so I believe it is in its own way. So I'm hoping that gave some of you some food for thought. And I know that there are people that can say no very easily and go on with their lives, and I am certain that they do that well. And I'm also certain that there are others who, like me, have more of a challenge doing that. And I don't think it's because we're weak, by the way. I think it's part of our makeup, part of our DNA, if you like. So, I guess my sort of thought for the day is know yourself. And what I had to do was to sit and have quite a conversation with Yvonne, for those of you who know Yvonne. I had to have quite a conversation with her because what I'm about to do will affect her life as well. And it was really cute because she just looked at me and said, well, we'll make a plan. We always do. And I think, you know, when you have people around you that know you that well, it's very heartening. Very heartening indeed. Good. All right, so on that note, know yourself well enough to know that all the logic in the world will probably not change the outcome, even if you try desperately hard. So I wish you all a fun day of self-awareness and forgiveness. I think that would be the other thing I had to do, is forgive myself for being who I am. Because I could hear all the people going, yeah, 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 don't do this, don't do this. And I'm going, you know, I need to do this. Whatever the risk, I need to do it. So, look after one another. Have a really fun day. I tried to have a really fun day yesterday. Remember, I was in a really good mood. You cannot believe how many idiots tried to ruin it yesterday. I was really impressed with one client who decided to have me spend a lot of time, probably 3/4 of an hour, trying to sort out a problem that he phoned me up about. And at the end of 3/4 of an hour, I had proven that this problem had nothing to do with us whatsoever. And at the end he said, oh, well, maybe it was somebody else. And I went, what? You know, 3/4 of my day just went down the drain because you thought my company had done something? And then I have to smile and be gracious and say, hey, I think I would have done the same thing. I mean, what can you say? I know what I would have liked to have said, and I'm certain some of you can probably imagine it. And it was not polite. This is dear Mama Sal saying, have a great day. As I said, look after one another and, you know, be amused by who you are. Try not to beat up on yourself. Most of all, getting angry with yourself just makes you depressed. It doesn't make your life any happier. This is dear Mama Sal saying bye-bye for now.